Brendan Carr, the FCC, and Jimmy Kimmel. Things that sound about as exciting to talk about as going to the DMV with a head cold. So to break this head cold in half, because people are already being ridiculous about it, we've got on Chris Loesch, one of the great guys on the broadcasting supersphere, who just so happens to be a decent, normal dude, which, believe it or not, is a rarity these days. Chris, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate that. I don't know if any of your viewers are going to look at me and think I'm normal, but uh, I'm a little eccentric, but I come by it honestly. But as far as my beliefs, I think I'm about as normal as you can get, obviously.
Well, I'm seeing a normal black t-shirt instead of a dress, so already doing better than the good representative from the state of Delaware, I'd say, just to kick things off there.
I I could tell you some stories about my band days, but I'll save that for another conversation we have down the line.
We'll have to schedule that one in, maybe an exclusive. All right, so to talk about the situation, just to recap, as though people haven't already scrolled through every social media take on this, Jimmy Kimmel was paused, pulled, suspended indefinitely by the Nexstar Group, by ABC, Disney Media, that blubbering mass of an organization. They said because of Jimmy Kimmel's comments regarding the assassination of Charlie Kirk and those who mourn, and then the identity of the assassin in that case. And since that moment, I knew as soon as I saw New York Times journalists tweet about it that this was going to be another Stephen Colbert conspiracy. So just a quote really quick from the New York Times, Lauren Hirsch: Nexstar, which is trying to get its $6.2 billion deal with Tenga approved, says it will preempt Jimmy Kimmel for the foreseeable future. So we're in conspiracy land because they say Brendan Carr made a bunch of threats. What do you make of that?
I think it's baloney. I think it's garbage. Here's the truth of it. Jimmy Kimmel went on his program in the wake of our friend Charlie Kirk being assassinated in public in front of a bunch of college-age kids, horrifically. And before he had any facts, and by the way, those of us who paid any attention pretty much already knew who did this and why he did it. We knew about the engravings on the bullet casings, on the cartridges. We knew what rifle it was, and we were just kind of waiting to figure out what the guy's name was. But we knew this was a leftist that did this. But Jimmy Kimmel went on his program and gaslit his audience, which America, however you want to slice it, I think is still a center right country, most of all, over 50%. And he lied. He lied. He said that it was a MAGA type person that did this. It was one of our own. And he not only lied about it, he insulted his own audience. He insulted their intelligence. And these companies that have, we work in broadcasting. My wife is, she's on a nationally syndicated radio show. It's a completely different animal than a podcast or something that you can do completely on the internet, because you have
Yep,
rules.
iHeartRadio, WIBC's for our home station. Yep. The FCC, because we're on Spectrum, we have rules we have to play by. That's just the way it is.
You can't play fast and loose with the facts or any of that stuff. You can have your own opinion about whatever you want, but there's things that you have to, kind of toe the line on, because you have a responsibility, because the people who are broadcasting your show have put up the money to put that out there, and they have to rent those airwaves from the government, the FCC. And, that's just the way it is. It's kind of like the rules of the road when you're driving. So the idea that the FCC had put any kind of pressure on that was completely stomped today when Brendan Carr of the FCC came on my wife's program.
So they were saying that Carr himself did it. The chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, now joins us via video. Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you. I just wanted to get your response to this. So apparently you called up ABC and Nexstar in Sinclair, and you personally put pressure on them to get Jimmy Kimmel fired. Is that true?
No, not at all. But it does, I guess, tell a better story for partisans on the left. I think it's ironic. I mean, some of these very same people are engaged, and I think what can only be explained as projection. These are the same officials that literally were doing exactly that. What's happening here is we're undergoing a very fundamental shift in the dynamics in the media ecosystem. Most people don't get this, right? But you've got national programmers. That's Disney, ABC, that's Comcast, NBC. They don't have FCC licenses, and they therefore don't have a federal obligation to operate in the public interest. But they produce most of the primetime TV shows that you do see on broadcast TV, whether it's 60 Minutes or NFL football or late night shows. Now, local broadcast TV stations, like your local Channel 7, wherever you are, they are licensed by the FCC, and they've been given a unique opportunity to use public spectrum, this public resource. And because of that, they have a public interest obligation. So the way this is supposed to work is Disney and Comcast can come up with whatever programming they want, and individual TV stations are supposed to decide, should we run this or should we not? Now, that's what Congress intended. But the last 10, 15, 20 years, that hasn't happened because Comcast and Disney and the programmers amassed so much power that they could effectively force local TV stations in Utah, in Pennsylvania, to run this progressive foie gras coming out of New York and Hollywood. And what we saw yesterday was really a pivot point, because it was the local TV stations that said, I've got to look out for the needs of my local community. I don't want to run this Kimmel stuff, and we're going to preempt it. And that's a really important moment of local TV stations standing up for their viewers and pushing back against Comcast and Disney. So it's a market correction that's really necessary. But it's people don't want to grapple with that, right? They want to try to point fingers or try to find boogeymen. But that's really what's going on here.
And he has been coming on her show for many years. They have a good rapport, and he completely stomped that theory in the ground. He said he put no pressure on any of the entities that made this decision to take Kimmel off the air. And honestly, just like Colbert, if we look at it with a little bit of objectivity, I think we see that these shows were really doing poor in the ratings. The culture in America has shifted more towards the right, and their brand of comedy, which Charlie Kirk told us several years ago, I believe it was a tweet in 2017, Jimmy Kimmel's just not funny. The funniest person that was ever working with Kimmel was Guillermo or Adam Carolla back in the days of the Man Show, which he would cancel himself for in these days, by the way.
I mean, I'm not going to ask producer Nick to, play the video of Kimmel shoving his face into a woman's skirt as she looked over the New York City skyline. But I do want to flesh out. Yeah. Oh, well. And so the list goes on. And, again, shock jock, radio host, sports guy from LA in the 90s. I understand. I work with a couple of the spiritual successors to Bob and Tom, Hammer and Nigel in Indianapolis. They have a little, just dudes hanging around. But then to moralize as he has, it didn't do well with the ratings. So we got the numbers here. This is according to Paul W. Swaney, used to be with McKinsey and Amazon. So this man eats numbers for breakfast. Right. He said weekly. I had previously said monthly. Weekly, Kimmel was getting about 1.77 million average views. Colbert, who was canned after losing $40 million and getting skunked by Gutfeld in the ratings, had 2.42 million average viewers weekly. So Kimmel, from what I've heard inside of the Nexstar group, from friends that I have on the inside, Kimmel was hemorrhaging far more money than Colbert. Right. And getting far less viewers for it. It looks like, based on what we have, that ABC, Disney Media Group, and Nexstar were just looking to get rid of him, and this just happened to be the perfect storm. I don't mean to be so, what's the word? Not critical, so blithe, just so unfeeling on this, but it just seems that this is the decision they made.
It was a business decision, and I think they made it with a clear mind. The statements that they put out don't mention any pressure by the FCC. And like I said, Brendan came on today and told Dana directly, I did not put any pressure on these companies to remove Kimmel from the air, although he agreed with the decision because we have a responsibility again as broadcasters to try to be truthful, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, these companies.
Oh, Chris, you're taking my next
Oh,
step. No,
sorry
go
about
ahead, take it. That's where I was going next. I'm glad you're thinking the same thing. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned those ratings. What was it? 1.7 and 2.4.
Let's be generous. 1.8. We'll round up on the
1.8.
last number.
That's 1.8 million unique viewers in a week. I'm going to compare that to my wife, who's one of the top 5 nationally syndicated radio hosts in the nation, and number 1 female by far. The conservative side of the ratings, according to Talkers Magazine, is that she has around 7.5 million unique listeners that in that same time period. If she was doing the kind of numbers that those guys were doing, do you think she would even have a job in radio? Not that
Well,
everyone
no,
has to be that
because
successful, but to be syndicated nationally, you have to bring an audience.
And I just to really again flesh out the point and bring the receipt here. iHeart Communications is on the NASDAQ.
Yes.
And so if she takes responsibilities and then there are excuses, or excuse me, if she takes, let's just say she just makes some bad decisions. Right. She takes some, liberties with the brand, and then iHeart makes excuses for that against the shareholders. They are liable. I've been saying this for years about ABC. I know you and I've talked about this before when fact-checking ABC News over the Maui wildfires, their firearms, lack of knowledge. There comes a point where if you're a stockholder in Disney ABC, wait a minute, they are driving their stock prices down by endorsing this bad decision that may not even be legal. Forget Jimmy Kimmel's politics and bad statements recently.
Right.
This has been a shareholder lawsuit at the class level incoming for ages, and they missed it by a hair.
Absolutely. Their responsibility to their shareholders is a legal responsibility. And, progressives don't understand this. Whenever they get a big wad of money and they have an agenda that they want to push, they go, hey, let's go whole hog, and make Star Wars about,
space lesbians
rights instead of a space opera, about the struggle for freedom, from an oppressive government. And literally they start arguing on the other side for an oppressive government. And then they kill the whole franchise that everyone loved since they were a kid. I'm 54 years old. I remember when the first Star Wars came out, I went to it, and they're murdering it. And Disney is hemorrhaging money on these projects, even though they can make them cheaper and faster now with volumetric photography and all that stuff. It's getting to the point for that company where they're going to have to do the same kind of kimmeling to a lot of their properties, Marvel properties included. They are destroying the good intellectual property that they have by injecting their own political influence, their own cultural influence into it. And I'm not saying that shouldn't come through from an artist or a director or whatever, but it should be like a footnote, a little bitty thing. It shouldn't change the character of an entire beloved franchise that people have come to know. And it's a lot like Kimmel. He has stuck his foot in his mouth so far from his days doing the Man Show to now. It's amazing he can get a word out.
I gotta say, I'm not sure if that's his heel or his uvula at this point. But the question that I have for you, because again, we consume and kind of keep track of the media. Media accountability is our game. Your wife, of course, has perfected this in broadcasting. We've seen this time and time again with various hosts. Now we've kind of got a bit of a tipping point. Colbert is gone. You can tell the ladies in their seats at The View are a little bit nervous here. Where do you see the future hosts? Like, you've got Fallon, who Trump mentioned in that tweet. You've got that other dude with Seth Meyers, I think, producer Nick. Yeah, that's right. Yep. And you've got a lot of other minor hosts who aren't on as large affiliate networks, but they're still out there. do you see any kind of a change? Like, hey, be funny again? When's the last time we saw Jimmy Fallon do that Stepdad Gary sketch with like Taylor Swift? That was funny. It's a lot better than, Trump caricatures.
Right. Or when he's having a sing off with one of his, pop singer guests or something like that. I think he can be genuinely funny when he's just wanting to be funny. I'm not sure Jimmy Kimmel ever could have been funny to be funny. He might have had a quick witticism here or there, but Fallon, when he has like Timberlake or somebody like that on, those kind of rapports are funny to the viewers.
Yeah.
Problem comes when these late night hosts make it too pointed in one direction when they have their political views come out. Johnny Carson was the greatest all-time late night talk show host. I don't think anybody denies that. He never spent a lot of time pointing a finger one way or the other. And if you call it down the middle like that, most of America goes, hey, this guy's fair. He's just funny. He's being funny both ways. Same with Jay Leno.
Mm-hmm.
I think even Letterman, who went far further to the left, was still able to see the absurdities from his own side and poke fun at them and still just have fun and be a funny guy. He had great segments with Ted Nugent years ago. He'd have him come on and sing Christmas songs and stuff like that. To me, that's when the host is magnanimous enough to go, 50% of my audience plus really loves Ted Nugent. And nobody can deny the guy's music. And by the way, full disclosure, Ted is a very close friend of mine. He texted me about 20 minutes before I came on your show.
Thanks for the disclosure.
I don't want to look like I'm, completely impartial here, because I'm not. Ted's amazing. And an amazing guitarist. And the fact that he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speaks to that institution's political viewpoints, because if it's about fame, there's not a lot of musicians that are more famous than Ted Nugent, especially just for doing music. I digress. I don't know what's going to happen to the rest of them. I don't think they can fire everybody. I think Fallon is probably the guy that makes the cut, because he's the one that had Trump on. He did the hair thing with him. And everybody was mad. You humanized Trump. What do you mean humanized him? He's a human. I posted a picture of Trump on with Dana from CPAC years ago, 2015. Was the first time we'd met him in person, but he had corresponded with Dana for a couple years, and we could see him, the gears are turning. I might get into politics, and a guy that had really described himself as being a progressive most of his life and a Democrat was going, hey, this ain't right, and the same people that are mad about Kimmel getting canceled didn't care that they were cheering when President Trump got kicked off of X, a president.
Right. I'm pointing to the individuals right now who have kind of the potential to actually be funny, actually putting entertainment first,
right,
and then any kind of commentary, politics, that kind of stuff second. I probably guess that the future probably rests in some of these stand-up comedians that have the ability to poke fun at both sides of the aisle when is necessary, and then also take a couple of steps back. And you can tell because they'll bring them on Saturday Night Live, and those will be the best episodes of all. Like the George Washington sketch about, the name of the hot dog not having anything to do with dogs or something like that. Those are some of the best modern entertainment, kind of large, middle of the lane legacy comedies. I just don't see any of those guys being brought forward to cover Kimmel's slot. I hope I'm wrong. I think they should. I think they should bring up, Sebastian Maniscalco out onto the stage and just let him talk for an hour, just one night, just to fill the gap. I think it'd be a lot better than what they've been doing.
I think it'd be amazing if they brought on a leftist comic that was actually funny. People would watch. Most of those guys are fairly leftist. And when they're doing their comedy, even when they're skewering our side, we laugh at it. We go, oh yeah, there's a couple guys on our side that are like that. I can laugh at that. Or I'm like that sometimes. Ha ha ha.
Whose line is it anyway during the Bush years?
Right.
They were just as relentless to Bill Clinton as they were to George Bush.
Absolutely.
And it was it was good. I mean, again, this isn't something that you aren't breaking new ground here on that.
Quinn on Comedy Central. He was pointedly more on the conservative side and would just go at the liberal comedians all the time, and they would take it and they would go back at him. And guess what happens in that exchange? Comedy. Just like those Friars Club roasts that Dean Martin always hosted. There were jokes that went both directions when they got into the political stuff. Go watch the roast of Ronald Reagan.
I was getting ready to say that's where Norm Macdonald's "Is he laughing?" joke about President Clinton came from, was from the roast of Reagan.
Right. Norm Macdonald was probably the greatest comedian that was a center-right guy ever. I also will say, full disclosure, Norm and my wife were friends behind the scenes. They corresponded. He would ask her funny stuff because Dana, she makes fun of herself all the time. She doesn't know about stocks and all that stuff. She calls them stonks. But he would go, yeah, what do you think about crypto? And he's a notorious gambler, asking my wife for advice on basically what is legal gambling on the stock market, which I think is hilarious. And I think was probably, him poking a little fun at himself. But she wrote a whole book, by the way, on this. When he went on The View and defended Roseanne Barr, his friend, who, by the way, apologized for what she said, who said that in a tweet on when it was called Twitter. She didn't say anything like that on her program. Her program was a hit show. It had just come back. Roseanne, she had always been a leftist, a liberal. He famously called her the only funny woman ever, which I think is hilarious. Because Norm, that little twinkle in his eye and the way he would deliver something was half the joke sometimes. But Dana saw that, and she wrote to him. She said, and this is before cancel culture was really a word, but she said, I have a feeling that you're right. He said, used to, somebody could go and apologize for what they said. The whole world would forgive them, and then they'd get to keep their career and move forward and not make that mistake again. But now it's not good enough. You have to take that person's whole livelihood. You have to strip them of their dignity, and you have to grind them into the ground even when they apologize. So what's the point of the apology? And Dana wrote a book called Grace Canceled based on that, which was released the actual very week that New York got shut down for COVID. We did the Huckabee show down in Tennessee, and we flew up to New York, and they went, we have to cancel all the shows. She was going to go on The View. They had bought, I think, 80 books for their audience. They were going to have them under the seat, and Dana was going to get to go, you get a book and you get a book, like Oprah. But
fantastic.
That's back when Meghan McCain was still on the show, our friend also, who should not be canceled by conservatives.
She hosts amazing Dungeons and Dragons sessions, by the way, I'm told. I don't know if I'm really supposed to reveal that on air, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to get a text later. But yeah, Meghan in private life is apparently quite the entertainer and hostess. I didn't know that until very recently.
What's funny is we'd known Ben for a long time, and Meghan we didn't really know. And then we just started texting during that whole COVID period, and we would have like these group texts where we were just being, two couples being friends and navigating through the weirdness that was happening. And, I always really just appreciate someone being genuine. I have heard about these sessions. My wife was just posting about, she was complaining the other night on Helldivers 2. We were trying to play as a family, of four.
What?
Two boys.
Wait. You guys, my producer and I are big Helldivers. We absolutely love it. It brings back feelings of Doom and Halo for me.
Yes. And you can do the
man, let's go.
Costume now on Xbox.
I'm
great.
Oh, I can't reveal that I'm a big nerd to my audience like that. Yes, the ODST theme that I both love on the piano. I'm a huge Starship Troopers, the book
Sure.
fan,
Yeah.
as well as the satirical total parody in the 90s.
Right.
So yeah, the ODST stuff is my favorite.
I got to say that game really blends, I think, the best of Halo and Starship Troopers and Warhammer, and kind of smashes it all together just in the expansiveness of the universe, the Warhammer stuff. And you got so many factions you can be a part of and all of that. Uh, and
But in commentary, it also is able to show how useful it is to make fun of all elements of political propaganda, which it does with all of the enemy factions, with its own faction, with the literally the straw man or strong arm news network with Coretta Kelly. It's amazing how much of it they like when you take a step back and you do a little South Park and you make fun of everybody. You know, I haven't seen a lot of people on the right mainstream after Charlie Kirk's assassination going specifically after South Park, like as they did with like a lot of the people celebrating his death, because tongue-in-cheek making fun of everybody, that's something South Park's always done. They never singled out Charlie for Charlie. They just made fun of all.
I'm old enough to remember when there was a thing called a South Park conservative, or a South Park Republican, people that were able to laugh at themselves and see that what South Park was doing was actually skewering both sides. And you're absolutely correct. I do believe Helldivers does that to great effect, but at the same time, somebody's got to kill those robots, insects, and aliens.
That's right,
Might
those
as well be
clankers. You gotta.
we enjoy it
So
as
now
a family. It's like one of our kids is off to school. We call it the troll cave when everyone's at home. We have a room in our house that's dedicated to it, and that's why. Also, if we can touch on this other rail of video games are causing violence, I think it's such a ridiculous thing. If anything,
we do
it
this.
is-
There's always a wing that does this every single time.
Right.
There are people that were scouring Tyler's Steam library. Don't get me wrong. If you're playing weird, like pornographic games and
is
stuff, that's
horrible
like
stuff.
but like video games making you violent. Get out of here. We've already disproven that nonsense.
Absolutely.
Well, now I'm starting to get that awful entrepreneurial glint in the back of my eye. I know there's another major host out there who also messes around with Helldivers. We might have to do like a charity Helldive stream sometime in the future. Oh man, I'm seeing an opportunity, but
That's a really great idea. Like Dana's never done a Kick or a Twitch. I've never done, or whatever the streaming platform is for gamers. People ask all the time when they find out that she games, like she plays Warhammer or 40K or back before Call of Duty completely destroyed their own
ruined itself.
property. And Halo did that too, which is maddening. And I was never a big gamer. Our kids literally got us into it. I would play like NHL hockey, or
yeah.
UFC or something like that. And now I'm more into the first person shooters and things like that. To me, it was always kind of silly because I'm a real shooter, I'm on the pro staff of an actual company that makes tier 1 targets that's ran by a Navy SEAL, and I'm on the board of that.
I knew that.
Well.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, this is why not just go out to the range and actually shoot? Well, there's things you can do in these games that you can't do on the range, and it's a lot of fun. So
That's true. I can't call in an airstrike when I'm on the range, and I'm just that's something that I reserve.
Yeah, you're weird.
Alas, so I don't know. We're really going to have to look into that. There's got to be a good cause, like a veteran-focused cause that we can donate the money to, but we can throw that up over on our YouTube, make it a 4-way split. Rotate some point of view stuff and do a Helldiver stream, man. That'd be a blast.
I think the AK guy is actually playing Helldivers 2 as well. So,
oh no, that would you put the Ministry of Truth, the Loesch's and the AK guy on a charity stream for Helldivers 2. That sounds fantastic.
It would be a blast. Literally.
Well, Chris, very true. Chris, thank you for taking a little bit more time than we had probably scheduled out, but I really, really enjoy getting your perspective on, I think, a more grounded approach than is easy to tweet out, if you catch my drift.
I agree with you on that, and thank you for allowing me to do it. Not a lot of people get to see this face of the lashes, but um, I'm more than happy to join you anytime you want. Sorry we didn't get to talk about the original topic we were going to talk about. What does it mean to be an American?
We'll have to talk about that eventually anyway, because I saw that clip today of all people, Nick Fuentes coming out and saying that Candace and Tucker are wrong about the Israeli conspiracy. I didn't have that in my bingo card. I'm sure that there's the ulteriorist of ulterior motives behind it, but it is screwing with that entire group of goobers today who believe racial supremacy, caste system stuff, and I wish them all of the confusion in the world.
Those are the same people that would say President Trump is a grade C American and his wife is a grade D. I don't know what that would leave Barron as. They don't think these things through before they put out their cockamamie theories. But Nick Fuentes, who I don't know a whole lot about, seems kind of fluffy to me, to be honest. Whenever I've heard him speak, or I see, he's like, I don't know, 4 feet tall, like one of those Krasensteins on the left. And when you've lost that guy, with your conspiracies, when this guy goes, "Hey, you guys are crazy," you might be crazy.
And even self-reflected on it. He's like, when I, of all people, are saying that you're being really schizo about this, he said, what? Like, if God forbid Ben Shapiro, something were to happen to him, does that mean Israel did that too? Right. And this man's got a point. But blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I won't dig into that. But as a half Irish and Cherokee guy, whose Cherokee ancestors, the real kind, not the Elizabeth Warren
like
kind.
Dana, by the way.
Except there you go. We're the Eastern Irish. Kentucky blend. Yeah.
Is that the
so that
she thinks it's the Missouri?
Yeah, that like there's a ton of Irishmen that came to Eastern Kentucky,
right?
And the Cherokee, which were being marched out of the coastal regions. There's an old story. We're not sure how true this is, but it is very weird. There essentially the story goes that one of the officers that was leading this march of Native Americans, they're Cherokees, noticed they were speaking English, and he stopped the horse and was like, "Wait a minute, you speak English?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Who do you worship?" And they're like, "Jesus Christ." And he said, "Oh, why are we marching you west?" And left them in Eastern Kentucky, where they have stayed to this day. That's how the story goes. So
her grandfather was actually born on a reservation and raised there before he left, and then went off to fight for America in World War II as a gunner on a ship. And he was.
That seems pretty grade A American to me. I don't know.
I mean, his people were here before the founders. I'm not sure. If that counts or not. Maybe it doesn't make you a grade A. Is it an A plus?
It's like a grade S tier. Like I was gonna say, which way did your Native American ancestors fight? Mine aided the swamp fox, according to tradition. How true that is, no one knows. I guess I'm special extra diamond class tier, which means I think that I get a free coffee every 10th visit or whatever.
I am mostly German, but I have Irish, Scotch, English, and French also in me. So I'm pretty much a pan-European mutt. And
well,
I don't know what grade American that makes me. My family came over prior to the Civil War. They fought for the North. My great grandfather Gustavus was a prisoner of war in Andersonville.
Wow.
He lived to be 101 years old and was a really celebrated character in Missouri. At the Capitol, the governor actually came to his 101st birthday, but big character, and got all his memoirs and why he fought for the North as a German, first generation German immigrant. His parents were the Germans. He was born here, and I think that makes me a grade B on the Groyper scale, whatever that is, and fought for the liberation of people that they thought should be freed because it wasn't Christian to keep slaves, as anybody with faith would lead you to know. So that's my ancestry. I don't know why we're even getting in on that. You're trying to wrap it up, and I'm like dragging you back.
No,
Almost like it's my
no,
sorry.
No, not at all. I genuinely could do this, for ages and ages, because this kind of stuff is more enjoyable than, we're so often constrained by showtime, the FCC clock.
Right.
Again, Brandon, who listens to our show, thanks for not finding us for messing around with that every once in a while. You do what you can, but no, this was excellent. I would love to have you back on again for this for sure.
Absolutely.
This is a really good chat.
Anytime. I appreciate it.
We'll be back soon. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC.
Thank you, Tony.